Well, welcome back to the Piney Woods Homestead, y'all. Today we are going into what Lisa says is not a deep dive on tomatoes. It's as much as a dive as we can do in 15 minutes or less, right?
Right.
So guys, thanks for stopping in at the Piney Woods Homestead. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't, and if you have, as always,
we appreciate you.
We do. Let's get into some tomato talk.
On this 125-foot row, I have primarily, other than 6 or 8, are all my indeterminate tomatoes. And an indeterminate is basically like a vine. It'll continue to grow, it'll continue to spread, and it continues to set fruit throughout the growing season. So that's why they are on this type of system versus the cattle panels that I have my determinate tomatoes on. And with this trellis system, we just have some, what is the wire?
High tensile steel.
High tensile steel. And then from that, I've got, it's a poly twine, tomato twine is what it's called, looped over the top and run down and anchored, you can barely see one of them right there, with a 6-inch landscape staple. And if you're wondering how I got, this part is not quite as high, or I mean not quite as short, as one little section is a little bit lower. I just did a slip knot on the end of one of the landscape staples and threw it over the top and pulled it down, and then knotted it about 3 or 4 times just to make sure it would stay tied. And so far it's worked as well as I expected it to. And on each of the tomatoes, what I've done with the twine is wrapped it around a little, and then I have tomato clips here. This one's come loose, but what they do is they will clip onto the string and then around the tomato. So and then I just come through. It's every day because these indeterminates grow so fast. Every day I'm coming in and moving the clips up. You don't have to move them up, but I bought, I think, 600 and I'm running low. So if I see that there's enough support from where they've got, then I'm just moving the clip up. If they need that support from lower, then I'm leaving it and adding another one. And they do make these that are compostable, so I could just throw them in the compost pile at the end of the season. But I would prefer to just have something I can continue to reuse. It'll be a little bit of a pain going through and taking them all out at the end of the season, but still it's worth it to me to have something I can reuse season after season. And as these are growing, all of my indeterminates except for one are heirlooms. Heirlooms don't have any disease resistance, and so to keep them as healthy as possible, I have went through and pruned so that they get really good airflow through here. I'm leaving enough to where the tomatoes are still going to get shade so they won't get sun scald. And then I also go through and remove any suckers that are there. And I'll see, I've removed so many of them, I'll see if I can find one to show you. And you'll see right here, kind of going off at a 45-degree angle, just in the elbow is a sucker. And at this size, you can just go in and pinch them off. And it's better if you can get them the smaller they are. But the bigger they are, then I'll just go through with my clippers and clip them out. But if not, you're gonna have all of those suckers will eventually start bearing fruit, but your plant is gonna get extremely big. It's gonna put all of that energy into that sucker instead of the other fruit that's there. And yeah, you'll get more fruit, but the more stems you have going from the suckers, the smaller your fruit's gonna be. And when I planted these, I did a trench system. We had mounded up, but then I did like this one. The base of the root ball was probably right in here, and I just laid it on its side so that it would form all those extra roots and make an even stronger plant. And you can do that with any it doesn't matter what size they are, big or small. Just the deeper you can plant a tomato plant, the better. So this had a good size stem already buried. And I've kept all the leaves off. I went through and pruned. That one really needs to come off. To keep the leaves, you don't want them touching the dirt, and really to get any splatter from the dirt, because your diseases will start spreading from that way. And on both of this row and this upper row of the cattle panels are our Determinate tomatoes. And cattle panels work great for them just because they're not going to get, but you're depending on the variety, 5 feet tall. So they're getting close to their height. But the other thing with Determinates is they're going to set all of their fruit at the same time. So it's great if you are wanting to can. You're going to get all of your tomatoes basically at the same time from a Determinate. And these were my Shelby paste tomatoes. And these are designed for high heat, high humidity climates, which is normally us, which has not been our year this year. But that's for but part of the characteristic is this extra wide foliage to help protect the fruit. And the care difference too between the Determinates and Indeterminates, you don't want to take the suckers off of your Determinates. So these I have just left alone, other than
why is that?
You're going to reduce your yield by removing the suckers from a Determinate. So the only thing that I'm doing to them is just making sure that all of the lower leaves are far enough off of the ground so they're not going to get mud splattered from rain or anything like that. And if you had to ask me whether I preferred the cattle panels or the string trellis system, honestly, Indeterminates don't do fantastic on cattle panels just because they get so big. They do okay, but if that's all you have. But the string trellis, for me, I'm really liking it a lot better, and we may even do a shorter run for our Determinates next year just because the cattle panels are so heavy. You know, it's a lot of work to get them put up and taken down every year. So we may just go a different route for the Determinates next year, but it will not be Florida leaf. It will not be. And I am by no means an expert. I've been growing for 20 some years and I still learn something new every year. But I mean, you know, you may have something that works great for you that's different than what I do. But as far as fertilization, at planting, they all get, every other week, they get Micro Boost and Triple 20, which both are water soluble, so I water those in. And then once the blooms start forming, I give them calcium nitrate. I just bury a little bit along, just a few inches away from the stem, bury it, water it in, and they'll get that again 2 weeks later. And now that there are so many blooms and fruit setting, I'm gonna switch to a lower nitrogen fertilizer, because the nitrogen is giving you the plant growth and the green, and now you want it to be using its energy for your fruit and your flower and the size of your fruit.
Y'all, that's gonna wrap it up for us today here at the Piney Woods. That's kind of a deep dive into tomatoes.
And I will say that one thing I did leave out was I add a good handful of the pelleted gypsum at planting to help prevent blossom end rot, which is also good for loosening up clay dirt.
So it's a soil conditioner.
It's a soil conditioner, yeah. But I put it in each of anything that gets blossom end rot, which is the tomatoes, the peppers, the cucumbers, the squash, all that got a good handful of it. So that's the main thing with tomatoes is blossom end rot, but it's not just a calcium thing, it's from lack of water or uneven watering. So,
and a good woman to get down here and take care of it all. That's all I gotta say. Guys, thanks for stopping in here. Lisa loves working in the garden. She has raised every plant in the garden from seed or it's been direct sown. Guys, y'all have a good day, a great week. If you have any questions for Lisa, drop them below and we'll make sure that we get them answered. And if we don't know the answer to it, we'll find somebody that does. Y'all have a good day, a great week. We'll see you on the next one. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise
too high.
Y'all have a good one.